Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Hayden Lee. I'm a Master Certified Coach and accredited Enneagram practitioner and Enneagram enthusiast. Welcome to my Enneagram series. This series I've been working on right now is called From Vice to Virtue, where I'm going through all the Enneagram types and digging in and exploring each type's vice and each type's virtue. The vice being this distorted idea or fixation on things that kind of prevent us from being our best self. It's distorted ways of thinking, acting, and behaving. I'm sorry, thinking, acting, and feeling. And then the virtue is this idea of this guiding light or this idea of this light post that will help set us free and help us move closer to our true self and our authentic self. So as a reminder, folks, the Enneagram is about motivation, not behavior. The Enneagram is this awesome system of self-development and personal development and professional development where you really learn about your motivations and you learn about how you express yourself. And you also learn to use it as a roadmap to develop into your best self. Because ultimately, all 9 types of the Enneagram are within us, but we all tend to have a core type, which is our dominant type, and learning how to embrace that type and use the Enneagram as a map to move around and to develop and to stretch ourselves, and how to use the Enneagram when we're stressed, how to use the Enneagram when we're ready for bigger growth. It's just a great, great system. So today, like I said, we're diving into Enneagram Type 3, which is sometimes nicknamed the competitive achiever or the doer. And the core motivation of the 3 is to be the best and to outshine the rest. You know, that's what drives the 3. They're competitive and they want to be successful. They want to look successful. They're ambitious. They're driven. And we're going to specifically focus on vice and virtue. So before we dive into that, I want to introduce our awesome Enneagram Type 3 today. We have Hogan Lee, who I'm very happy to be here today. So Hogan, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Again, my name is Hogan Lee. I'm a born and raised Los Angeles native, and I'm a tech entrepreneur. I have my own business that I started back in 2018.
Nice. Yeah, it's very common for a 3 to be an entrepreneur, right? A go-getter, hardworking, absolutely. So in terms of the vice and virtue of the 3, like I said, the vice is each Enneagram type has a vice, which is that maybe distorted idea that kind of holds us back. It gets us thinking in weird ways and feeling in weird ways that might not necessarily be productive. And for the 3, it's this idea, the vice of the 3 is deceit, right? Because remember, the 3 always wants to be successful, look successful, have this image of success. So deceit might be deceit to others, you kind of only sharing successes and not failures. Deceit to others, only sharing things that may make you look, that may be only be impressive. And there could also be a little bit of deception towards yourself, right? So tell me a little bit about how that resonates with you, Hogan, how this vice of deceit may have held you back in the past and may still be a struggle for you sometimes.
Well, I guess if I had to look back, um, I'd say that a lot of this behavior may have been formulated when I was a kid. You know, it was a very competitive childhood. We're always striving to get the best grades, the best test scores, to get into the best schools, not only in college, but also, private schools, right? There's a lot of exams. And so it's always a competition against others. And I think what happened was, because I was so wrapped up in competing against others, that's where I found my validation. And unfortunately, well, fortunately, it got me to a certain point in life. But then again, now that I'm coming to the realization, what would my what will my life look like going forward? And from at this point in life, and this year is where I really found out that this finding validation from external, whether it's winning others or beating others, it's not very fulfilling, and it doesn't allow me to savor the achievements that I've done thus far. And so that's the device that I have, and I recognize it, and that's what I'm actively working to address through different, whether it's actually doing something, but also actually sitting with things. And that's something that I've also learned through this program is that I think, Hayden, you said you can't be by doing, and I'm a doer, I'm a grinder. But the reality is that I've had some breakthroughs when I've been forced to sit with myself, be bored with myself, to think about things deeply without distractions. And so that's some of the things that I've been able to get some breakthroughs on during this season of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you, Hogan. Yeah, I do acknowledge you for the growth and effort you've put in. Hogan's referring to the Enneagram group, that I run. But so I think right now at this point in time, you're definitely more self-aware and you've definitely grown a lot, since I've known you the last few years. But let's go back to our like less self-aware self, Hogan. So how did deceit show up for you in terms of like, only sharing successful things and not sharing failures or weaknesses, only sharing what you want people to hear, perhaps? So how has that deceit happened in the less evolved Hogan?
Well, I mean, I've kind of lived and have to sustain two different personas. One of a public persona that is of success, prosperity, happiness. But the reality is, we're a lot of different feelings and emotions. And we also, life is not just about highs, it's all about highs and lows. And that's how you really understand what makes us happy. And so for me personally, before I started really working on myself, I had to maintain multiple personas, and I didn't realize how tiring and exhausting that was until I actually moved to Asia, where I had no networks and I didn't have anyone to impress. It really felt very liberating. And so
Wow.
that's where I realized that the life that I was living before was way too stressful, way too complex, way too anxiety driven, and just a lot more energy spent than I needed to in areas that wouldn't serve me well. And
Yeah.
so those are the things that I guess, prior to this awakening that's happened this year, I've been doing a lot of it unconsciously and a lot of times on autopilot. And that's what I'm working to kind of work against and really work towards being more intentional and being more thoughtful and knowing that no matter what I do, as long as I do my best, things will happen as it's supposed to. It's just I can't force things to happen before they're ready.
Yeah. Wow. I love what you're sharing. Yeah, what resonates a lot is this idea of like multiple personas, right? And how exhausting it is to kind of say and appear in different ways to different people. The Enneagram 3, which I am as well, an Enneagram 3, so we're very similar. But the Enneagram 3 is often referred to as the chameleon of the Enneagram, where the threes are the chameleon. They can adjust to any group. They can adapt in any group and know what to say in any group in order to look good and look successful. How's that been for you, over the course of the many years of your life, being able to like adjust and adapt to any group and be and look good and successful no matter who you're talking to?
Well, aside from the strenuousness and like the anxiety and the amount of energy it takes to maintain all that, it did actually give me some benefits, right? It allowed me to present a picture of success and capability and accomplishment that allowed me to get certain um, goals that I want to achieve. However, I would say that the more I succeeded in doing it that way, the more tired I was,
Mm,
and
yeah,
the more personas I'd have to give. I mean, you could use LinkedIn as an example. A lot of people view what people are through their LinkedIn profile. And by talking to so many friends, especially during this year where we're in quarantine, I've had the luxury and the blessing to talk to so many people. And we already know that we're much more than our LinkedIn profile. But unfortunately, a lot of people like to make it very simple. And what you put on your LinkedIn profile is what a lot of people in the world will see. And unfortunately, we try to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy when in reality, we have so many different things in our lives that are good and bad. And oftentimes, those bad things will also teach us to be better. And so, rather than sitting with it and leaning into it and really thinking about it, trying to hide it and putting it into a closet and not addressing it, kind of not only bottles up, but it also prevents you from maximizing your fullest potential,
mm,
from really allowing people to see your full self, and ultimately being happy with your full self in public, as opposed to what I was doing before, where I was showing only one side and it was preventing me from connecting with people on a much deeper
Mm.
level.
Wow. I so resonate with that. Wanting to have my LinkedIn profile or my Facebook profile, have this image of success. Like it's to really put effort into what people see, right? Because definitely on social media, we have the opportunity to really curate exactly how we want to appear, right? So that's definitely something threes are aware of, is like how they want to appear. Um, and something else, oh yeah, something else I want to say though, you said about being your full self. So, and like I said, I acknowledge that you're more embracing that now, like embracing all sides of you and sharing in public all sides of you, the good, bad, and the ugly. But how in the past, what have you hidden in the past? Like what kind of things did you not openly share before, which kind of falls into the theme of deceit and deception, right? Because only sharing what we want to share and not sharing what we don't want to share, is a version of deception, right? So how's that land for you? What were you afraid to share, or what were we holding back before?
Gosh, I guess one thing that I've held back is, the struggles that my business had over this past year. I know that the pandemic is nothing that anyone caused, or at least I think I do. And we all know that it's affected the whole world in many different ways. However, that burden,
Mm,
something that I took on, even though there were things I couldn't change outside of my control. And that led to a lot of dark spots, anxiety, depression,
yeah,
all that stuff, right? And so if I were to embrace it sooner or earlier and be okay with it, this, gorilla on my back wouldn't be such much of a gorilla. It'd be something that would be just another life occurrence, something I learned from. And I guess in today, I realize that all those hard things are stretching people into the person that they, need to become or will become. And so now it's focused my attention from something of a victim and scarcity mentality to one more of learning, growth, and possibilities. And so, even though the effects on my business have been severe and it's been very challenging, I guess going through this self awareness journey has allowed me to reallocate that energy to something that I know will happen good from all this that I'm learning from this year. And so that's what I'm hoping for, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for. And that's all you can do, right? You can do all I can do is the best, and the rest is hope and pray and know that things will happen when they're supposed to.
yeah. No, thank you for being so honest. I know how hard it is for a three to share their failures and to share their mistakes and their struggles and vulnerabilities and weaknesses. And that's why deceit comes in, because those are uncomfortable feelings. So then we just cover it up with a smile and just cover it up with sharing the positive, right? Um, and I think it's a good segue for the virtue of the three, which you kind of touched upon, which is hope, right? So, folks, as a reminder, each type has a vice. For the three, it's deceit, and each type has a virtue. And that virtue is this, I've called it a guiding light, or this lighthouse of this idea to work towards, to help us become our full self, our authentic self, our real self. And I say that virtue also helps liberate us. It helps set us free from the limitations that we've put on ourselves in that vice. So the virtue of the three is hope. And I think Hogan already touched upon it, but the hope that you don't need to prove yourself, hope that, you don't always have to portray this image of success. Hope that if you're your real self, sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the things, the world will still embrace you and love you. In fact, the world might even support you and love you and embrace you even more if you share that your real self. So tell me how this idea of hope and leaning into showing the world your authentic self is actually very liberating and can actually help you become more successful.
Yeah, I guess through this self awareness journey through this year, last couple of months, I've learned to kind of work a lot on my feeling center because my action center and my thinking center is pretty over indexed. But what I realized that doing that work is that feelings are something that we own. No one can take it away from you. And so what I realized is that by speaking more from the heart rather than the head, a lot of those things that I guess I was thinking about kind of like a chess match. If they talk about this, I will talk about this. If I think about one thing, um, actually, let's step back. So, an example of what really went well was I had a conversation with a person that I knew I needed to end relationships with.
Mm,
I was thinking about, oh, what are they going to say? Do I need to create an excuse? Are there some white lies that I can talk about? It's about like you're thinking about all the if and ands and buts.
yeah.
But what I realized is that I took a chance and ended up speaking from the heart about how I feel. And the reality is, it was a much easier conversation,
Mm,
a conversation that was much more natural, a conversation that was much more simple. We didn't have to go through all the excuses or stretching truths or white lies. And I got the feedback that they actually liked this conversation much better.
yeah.
They saw my true self, that it was clear that I was speaking from the heart and not from the mind, because people can tell. Whereas before, I always think that if I kind of prepared long enough, hard enough, that I could convince or fool people. But this was the easiest thing. So when I was just talking about how I feel, I didn't really have to talk too much. I didn't have to explain too much.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and I just let it on the table and allowed, you know, the universe, or us, the things to just work. And those conversation was it was deeply enriching. It was tough, but it was also very fulfilling. And at the end of the day, this person really respected me being open and vulnerable like that. And for me, it was very fulfilling, and it taught me a different way of communication that is much more liberating, and just more honest, so that I don't have to create any stories
Yeah.
or white lies. So that was something that I guess really resonated with me.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Just really fast, like I'm not bothered at all by the phone call. Just so you know, just putting it out there now, because that I'm not bothered by that in case you're thinking about that. Like, because in another call I was on, like there was like background noise, and that's just part of it, in terms of embracing the flaws and everything. So yeah, I'm not worried at all about me looking successful that there is a phone call. So just putting it out there in case that was on your mind.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. With that said, though, yay, this honest relation or this honest conversation you had with this person. I love what you said about little white lies, like which is the vice of deceit. Like, what can I say? What can I do to make myself look good, or to make the situation maybe look more better than it is, or whatever? And but you decided to just work on just being honest and authentic, speak from your feelings and your heart. So, what did you learn about hope? Right, the virtue of hope. How does hope connect with your story of you embracing your truth and just being honest?
Yeah, I would say that hope is something that has become more true, and something that has become much more stronger through this journey. Before, like I said, I was trying to grind and force a result on my timeline, and it wasn't getting anywhere. It just got me all busy and stressed out, and amplified some of those negative feelings that I've been feeling, that previously been trying to hide. Now I realize that I'm in a better place, and at much more peace. I'm still trying hard. I'm still doing my best, but I'm not doing work for the sake of work. I'm allowing, the work I do to speak for itself, but also allow the process to take place. Trust the process. Things will happen as they're supposed to, and so with that comes the hope that it will. And I know that I'm very confident, from this journey, that I think I'm going to get it. I'm pretty sure. I'm confident that I'm going to get it. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly when, but I've done the work, and I'm doing the work necessary without stressing myself out. And that allows me to move all this nervous energy and worry
Mm,
to other areas of my life that might be even more important and lead to even more breakthroughs. But it
yeah.
creates the space for me to really be intentional about things rather than reacting to what the world throws at me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this idea that leaning into hope is also like, you know, y- you can be successful and get what you want by embracing who you are versus what you achieve, right? It's like really leaning into your being versus your doing, which we've talked about. But the being is like, who are you really, and what's really important to you? What are your values? And sharing that with the world. And that hope is, yeah, the world will give you your needs and fulfill your wants and needs without you needing to earn it or to prove yourself. You know, that who you are already is enough, right? How's that journey been for you to embrace that, truly who you are is enough? You don't need to earn it or prove it or like achieve anything in order to be already of high worth.
Yeah, I would say that that's a work in progress because it's been many, many years where I felt that, whether it's I needed to prove my worth or validation. And so it takes time to kind of undo that. But I'd say that knowing is half the battle, and I know it, and I believe it that I'm enough. And I just need to continue reminding myself that that's part of the journey of becoming your
Mm,
whole self. And so it's a work in progress, but I'd say that I made amazing progress just in the last couple months, and I look forward to making more progress throughout my life, knowing that there's no real finish line, but it's
mm.
always a journey, and to really enjoy the process as it's happening.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifelong journey. So I guess to wrap up, Hogan, when you find yourself in the depths of deceit, right, the depths of your vice, how can you remind yourself on how can you, get from your vice to your virtue? What can you do? How can you think? How can you make that journey, or how can you remember that journey?
Yeah, I mean, before I hide those things that I'm ashamed about, I guess I'm getting more comfortable with embracing it and not hiding it because I have examples and experiences where I've shared it and it led to more fruitful, deep conversations with people that I care about. And so in the future, I'll keep reminding myself that it's easier to tell the truth than to live a lie. And so, with that in mind, I look forward to sharing everything about myself so that people know upfront what they're getting and they'll like me for who I am and not for this persona that I've tried
Mm,
so hard to maintain, which is only a fraction of who I am. And
yeah,
so I'll continue to work on that, keep reminding myself, and keep that hope that not only will I get the things that I, am working and desiring for, but also hope that I'll develop into a whole person, but also at the end of the day, maybe even teach others to do the same.
yeah. I love that, and that's instilling hope too, Hogan, right? It's not like when you embrace hope and you lean into hope that the world will love you and embrace you for who you are, not what you achieve. And love that last part you said is you'd even teach others to do it, then it's instilling hope, right? It's helping others, move from their own vices into their own virtues, which is very hopeful. So, well, thank you, Hogan, so much for, allowing us to talk to you about your vice to virtue. Any final words you'd like to say before I wrap this up?
I guess the only thing I would say is I wish I started this journey sooner, but as I said, everything happens for a reason. And so I guess the time was right for me to just start this journey. And I'm so glad I did. And it's changing things already in my life. And this has
Yeah.
just been a couple months, and I have the rest of my life to really, really taste and enjoy all the wonderful things that come around from this development and this journey. So looking forward to what's coming up, not knowing what will happen, but going to be pleasantly surprised with all the
Yeah.
stuff that ends up happening.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I just want to acknowledge you once again for jumping into my Enneagram group, saying yes to that Enneagram group, but really going all in and really not being afraid to be vulnerable and share the dark side, like you said, the failures and weaknesses, which is very, very hard for three to do, but you were really able to be authentic and share more of yourself in our Enneagram group. And it was awesome. And and I guess, my last question is like when you did that, what was the result? Like what happened? What did you learn from, because you shared with all of us, kind of vulnerable things. What happened and how did you learn from that experience?
Well, I was able to resolve situations much more cleanly. I was able to deepen my relationships with people. People can tell when you're only surface level,
Yeah.
and willing to share deeper about yourself. The others usually want to do that as well. They want to meet you at your level. And so I realized that that's something that I look forward to doing, and being the pioneer to do that, because when I do it, people tend to want to go deep as well.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm really looking forward to doing a lot more, and the stories that come from it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It makes me think of, because the three, like you said, has many masks or many facets, and to just take off that mask and go deeper with people to be real and authentic. And that's exciting because that's the same journey I'm on. I'm working on that too as a three. And I know it's sometimes easier for us to smile, put on that successful image rather than sharing, what's on our heart and mind. And I myself am working on that too. So thank you, Hogan, my fellow three, for also being a part of that journey. So.
Okay, my pleasure.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again, and thank you, viewers, for watching this Enneagram series. If you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to, like and subscribe, and go ahead and visit my website, haydenlee.com, HAYDENLEE.com. You could check out my Enneagram group, which I have more information on that website, and I would love to help you dive deeper into the many, many layers of your Enneagram, as well as, helping you explore your vice and how you can go from your vice to your virtue. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you again, Hogan, and everyone have a great day. Thank you so much.